this episode, I am talking all things systems for government contracting success. Your small business needs to be set up, ready to go, and talking to the agencies that will push contracts your way. Go ahead, push play, I'll catch you on the inside. Welcome back, Bold Move Besties, to another episode of She Built Success. I am your host, Claudia. Let's get into it. All right, so hopefully by now you understand and can appreciate what systems can do for your business. And I get that getting started in government contracting might not be the most easy. However, there is a system for that. What's that? There's an app for that. There's a system for that. So what I want to do is actually talk through some of the systems and procedures that we have that we use to manage government contracts as Capital Consulting Group. So I'm going to go through the three bases that we use. I'm going to go through how we use them, and I'm going to go through the type of information that we collect in them so that hopefully it'll give you a glimpse of what it looks like in government contracting to manage not only a pipeline, but also relationships. All right. So the first system, I kind of hinted at it just now. The first system is a pipeline tracker or a deal tracker or an opportunity tracker, whatever kind of tracker you want to call it. It's a means and a way to be able to know what opportunities are coming up, what opportunities are being forecasted, and how you can best position your company to not only track it, but be able to respond to it when it comes out, right? So we have what I call our business pipeline tracker, and we carry it over from year to year. Some opportunities or solicitations fall off. Others are ones that we're tracking. So it might have been awarded recently, but we know it's a 5-year award. And so we are just watching it, whether it is we're watching for it to not fully complete so they don't renew an option year, or we're looking for it to expire so where we can then come in and help, be that bridge or be that solution when it's time to go up for recompete. And so in our opportunity or in our pipeline tracker, we are able to do things. And of course, my favorite tool, by now I know you're probably like, if she don't stop talking about this daggone tool, but Airtable, it's in Airtable. And I want to talk about like what it looks like on a day-to-day basis, and then what it looks like as a long-term strategy, and then how we leverage that and what I'll be talking about as another base that we use. So in Airtable, our pipeline tracker tracks potential opportunities. It tracks any opportunities that align with three things: our existing 3 agencies that we're targeting for a quarter. It aligns with our NAICS codes and or it aligns with our PSC codes. So those are the 3 points that we look at. So in our base, in our pipeline tracker, we have a whole table, which is basically almost like a Google sheet, but a little more advanced. But we have a whole table of this is the opportunity, this is the date that the response is needed by, this is the points of contact, this is what the solicitation is about, this is the NAICS or the PSC codes if they're available. I mean, we capture all this information, and we're capturing this information from SAM.gov. So I've created an interface in this pipeline tracker where my contract sourcing person goes out on a literally daily basis and pulls from SAM.gov. We upload it into our Airtable and we get a dashboard. This dashboard not only lets us see the type of opportunities that we're tracking or looking to potentially respond to, but it also tells us if it's not a good fit. We fill out why that particular opportunity is not a good fit, and what that lets us, or if it's something that is not a good fit now, but we know down the road we could potentially leverage or use it. Like I mentioned before about, being able to be ready when that contract expires or is about to expire. Those are things that we're able to flag as more long-term opportunities via Airtable. Now, recently, well, I guess not so recently now, at least a year, maybe almost a year and a half now, Airtable has had this feature called interfaces. And for me, because I am data and tech heavy, I'm cool with being on what I consider the back end of Airtable. So I set up the tables, I set up the links, I set up the automations, I set up the workflows, and my team, they work on the interface side. So they are able to see things like, okay, this is a dashboard of how many opportunities we're tracking for a quarter. This is the performance and spend of the particular agency that we're looking at. these are the items that we're looking at as long-term opportunities, and these are the points of contact that we need to keep developing relationships with. Like all of those touch points are in there. So we have this in an interface, we have this particular view that shows us all of our SAM.gov data. And we can look at it by NAICS code, we can look at it by PSC code, we can look at it by time frame, and we can slice and dice and look at it different ways to say, okay, is there something that we need to be tracking? Now, everything that my contract sourcing person, pulls from SAM.gov does not make it on what I'll call our true pipeline, meaning it's something that we're looking to pursue. This in the pipeline tracker, we have, like I said, I mentioned before, like we do things where we will filter out if something's not a good fit, and we'll say why it's not a good fit. And we actually go through those notes to be like, okay, are we getting a lot of not good fits in this particular agency? And do we need to stop pulling them from our daily SAM pool? And if we do, we adjust our SAM filter, and then we, upload the new file. But it's really, those are some of the patterns that we're looking for when we're looking at I'll say filtering out opportunities. When an opportunity is a winner, yes, let's keep moving forward. Then what we do is we mark it, and there's an automation that I set up that moves that opportunity into our actual pipeline tracker and triggers what we call the proposal workflow process. Now, we give it that name internally. Technically, it's pre-proposal. So it's kind of like, is the bid, no bid decision? Is this something that we even want to pursue? And so I have an automation that when we decide as a group, like, yep, this is something we want to go after, it pushes it into our pipeline tracker where we can visually see a lot more details. We have the agency, we have the sub-tier, we have the office, we have POCs, we have details if there's like additional documentation. So the one thing that I didn't mention is when we're doing this SAM pull, it's essentially a flat file, which is basically, just the key pieces of information. It doesn't have like attachments. The only time we pull attachments is in a couple situations. One, if we know it's a long-term opportunity and we kind of want to track what this solicitation is saying and compare it to the next one when it comes out. And two, if we say, yep, we know we're going to go ahead and try to do the pre-proposal, the bid, no bid worksheet and scorecard, then we'll pull in like attachments and things like that. So it might be the scope of work, it might be, the requirements and what they're looking for, it might be key personnel. It really depends on the RFX. So that is a RFP and RFI and RFQ, like where is it in the process? RFI. So the P is for the proposal, the I believe is for intent, and then the Q is for quote. No, I is information, my fault, not intent. And so those are the different elements that we're looking at. And depending on where it is, we pull those assets. When we pull those assets and upload them into our system, I have yet another dashboard on the interface side where we can flip through assets. Like we can flip through and say, okay, we could track that this particular document is looking this way for the agency at this point in time. And then if it comes up again, because there are times where in a perfect world, when the solicitation is being uploaded, they have like a change to it. In a perfect world, they would just essentially, the easiest way to explain it is they would just replace it. Like instead of it being version 1.0, it would be version 1.1. It doesn't always work that way. Sometimes it looks like a whole new solicitation. And unfortunately, there's not a real way for us to reconcile that in an automation. And so there is a little bit of manual effort in it. While I love automation and want things to be completely, as seamless as possible, there are elements where we do need our people in it and to be able to look at it. So that is another aspect or point where in our tracker, we are looking at, okay, the solicitation says this. I have a real example. We had a solicitation, I won't call the agency, but there was an opportunity for us to respond to a solicitation in the data analytics field. At that point, it was an RFI. And we were looking at it. I was like, okay, it was a source of thought notice. We meet all these criteria. We're good. We're going to go in on the data analytics segment of this particular opportunity. And this was just, they were out there. They were kind of feeling for what's available, this particular agency. They came back a few months later. And because we follow on SAM.gov, and I'll link the episode where I talk about this, but you do have the ability to, if there's an opportunity that you are tracking and you want updates on it. So whenever they add an attachment or modify that particular opportunity, you'll get an email notification. You can elect to do that. And so we were doing that and following it, and we got that information. And come to find out, this next iteration of the actual RFP at this point, they completely nixed out data analytics, and it sucked. because we were in a position to be able to, respond in the analytics space. But when they took it off, and I guess that's just based on the different feedback that they got, maybe requirements changed for them as an organization. I can't answer the why it was no longer there, but it wasn't. And so because we had the history of seeing what it was since inception when they were doing their research and, putting the call out to say, are there any companies who can fulfill this, and this requirement? And we raised our hand and said we could. Just in the end state, when it went to RFP, we couldn't. So that's an example of kind of the complexion of how sometimes things change and the nuances change. Now, do we completely delete that entry from our tracker? Actually, no, we don't. And the reason why we don't is because there is a potential where it would come back around. And if they come back around and need something for data analytics, guess what? We kind of have an idea and a basis based on that initial documentation that came out to say, hey, this is what we're looking for, that we can leverage it to our advantage. So no, we don't delete that. There are things that we do clean up. So if they're just no longer a good fit, like certain agencies might not fit for what we're trying to do, or they may no longer be awarding as many opportunities in our particular area, then we'll delete those from the system. It is not, while I love Airtable, it's not a true data warehouse in that capacity. That is something more like Power BI, but for what we're using it for Airtable, it works for us. So I talked about our tracker, and I talked about kind of how the automations help us move through things. The other thing in our tracker is, so after we go through this opportunity is for us, we're going to bid on it. We go through the bid, no bid worksheet. And so between my contract sourcing person and my acquisition strategist, they're going through this document, and there's certain guidelines and parameters and templates. Is our scorecard, our bid no bid scorecard, that tells us, is this opportunity one that we should really continue to pursue, or is this opportunity one that we can just let go? Are you a small business owner, consultant, or service provider ready to break into government contracting but not quite sure where to start or who you can trust? Let's change that. The Ready Swipe Gov Accelerator is our 12-week group coaching program that has a one-on-one guided experience feel. Inside, you'll learn how to position your business, package your services, and create your credit card swipeable offer that makes it easier for government buyers to say yes. Plus, you'll have the strategies and tools to be able to navigate the process with confidence. Now, spots are limited, so go ahead and apply at readyswipegov.com, and we can get started to that little step forward in government contracting. And based on the score, there's an automation that triggers the next phase of our process for responding to a proposal. And at the final, so there have been times where the opportunity is like right on the edge of bid, no bid, and I get flagged. So I have an automation. You're gonna hear me say this a lot, but I do. I have an automation where it flags and it notifies me. We use Slack and email, but in this case, it notifies me on Slack to say, hey, this particular opportunity, this is the score that we received. Should we proceed or not? Then I go in and manually look at it, and I look at our bid, no bid worksheet. I look at, depending on what the contract is, I look at the scope of work. If there's certain key personnel, I will take that into consideration as well. And then as CEO, I make that call as to whether or not we're going to continue to pursue that opportunity. Now, I'm giving you probably more than you would like to hear about my system, but I'm saying it because the system affords us the ability to take on volume of opportunities to look at and be able to methodically go through each opportunity with a consistent approach. It's not, oh, I think this kind of looks good because, it has my NAICS code here and let's make it work. And it's like, no, does it meet this? Do we have the past performance? Do we have the years of expertise? Do we have the key personnel? Like, those are markers that we go through every opportunity that we're trying to bid for. And it allows anyone that comes onto the team to get cross-trained or trained in that particular area to be able to pick it up and continue to move. So I'm not the one sitting there reading all these solicitations by myself. No, we have the system, and I implore you to put that system together. It might not be Airtable like that. You might like some other tool, and that's okay. Make it work for you. I'm just giving you the real of how we're doing this in our Airtable base. So back to opportunities. So I talked about the opportunities. I talked about the bid, no bid. I was getting into proposals. When we're doing proposals, there are certain elements in our proposal that is a staple. It's not going anywhere. It's, about the company, when we were established, how do we align with your goals? Excuse me. And then we're responding to the actual solicitation and the requirements for what they're looking for. We're not making up our own stuff. There are some times where you can add additional information or things that you could fulfill. But for the most part, for us, we stick to the script, and this is what it is. Now, that being stated, I'll segue to say when we add this color of what else we can do, that's more in our relationship side of the house. So we have a CRM, a customer relationship management base. That's where we handle a lot of that. Here's what else we can do. We see this solicitation, but here's what else we can do. And we try to build relationships and rapport, not only with the small business specialists for the agencies that we're going after, but also within the program offices that we're going after. So I think I've heard it said before, oh, you could just go get a contract with HHS. Do you know how big HHS is? Any clue? Do you know how many agencies roll up under HHS? So it's important to be specific. So yes, you can say the umbrella DOD if you wanted to, but are you with Army? Are you with Navy? Like where are you falling? Are you with Air Force? Like who are you going after? And then within that, what program office are you going after? And then within that, is there a particular, I'm gonna say division. I can't remember what military, I'm not on the DOD side anymore, but I can't remember what the military term is for the different installations or the different bases that you're trying to go after. That's what it was. But so we're very strategic in how we're putting together that roadmap. So I'm going to segue into our CRM. That's the second system that we use. Our CRM, I built it as well. And you guessed it, Airtable. And the CRM for us tracks not only what we call the government workforce. So these are employees of the government, whatever the agencies are, again, that we're targeting. But it also tracks government contractors. So these are other potential vendors that we could partner with. These are other individuals that may be a fit if we do get a contract that I can pull from our bench. And I'll just say it now. The bench is kind of so I come from a consulting background, clearly, and I've worked for the really large consulting firms in the past, and they have this thing called a bench. And the bench is where you pull resources from to go work various contracts. So when I went off and created my own company, I did much the same. I made sure that I have a bench. So I have a bench of PMP professionals. I have a bench of AI folks. I have a bench of data analysts. I have a bench of systems analysts. I have a bench of people who specialize in specific type of softwares in the data warehousing and data analytics space. And so having that bench when we go after opportunities and they're like, hey, do you have key person or who are your key personnel that you're going to identify for this contract that would be able to fulfill it? I go, it's not just me, but we go, we pull the resumes. If there's any updates that may need to happen, we contact that resource and we're able to insert them back into our pipeline tracker, where we resource load to kind of get cost estimates and all that fun stuff. I will not go into that on this episode, but we do that as well. But the CRM allows us to build the relationships and maintain not only government workforce and opportunities, but also the vendors and then potential subcontractors or 1099s for us that would be on the bench. And so we're using all of that to develop relationships. We talk about, I'll give you an example. So in the government workforce part of the CRM for us, we have things like interaction types. So if we talk to them on social media, if we met them at a live event, if we met them in person, if we had a virtual meeting, like all of those touch points, it's like a CRM, and that's what a CRM does. It's meant to track how you're cultivating and managing the relationship. So between myself, my acquisition strategist, my team, we go in and we make notes. If I talk to someone, it flags that I talked to them, what we talked about, the date and time that we talked, and we just kind of see how that relationship is maturing. And if it's kind of flat, we're kind of like, what's going on here? Do we need to, interject some real face-to-face time? Do we need to get on the phone with them? Because phone interactions is a thing too, despite the year that we're in. Yes, phone is a real thing. But yeah, those are all the touch points that we're able to track with the government workforce. And what that tells me is, okay, not only with who we're focused on, and it's not just our top 3 when we're building these relationships, it really is all the agencies that we know are purchasing our services that we know that we could impact, right? It's not just a spray and pray. It really, even though I say every quarter only focus on 3, we continue to grow and build. And so we get weekly notifications between myself, my acquisition strategist of, hey, you need to go follow up with so-and-so. Or, hey, it's been this amount of time. Have you checked to see how they're doing? Or have you guys touched base? And so we have automations that trigger via email to let us know that we need to go ahead and reach out if we haven't already. If we proactively did it, we don't get the email. But if we didn't do it, it reminds us. Or for instance, everyone on our team gets assigned different points of contact within different agencies to build that relationship. And if there's not a person assigned, like there's just nobody from the team was assigned to that person, then I get a notification that says, hey, this needs to be delegated, or, somebody needs to be contacting and developing that relationship. And while we're on the topic of relationship, I know I've said this before, but I mean, just shoving your capability statement in the face of whether it's the program office or a small business specialist, that's not the way to go. Please do your research. I'm going to say it this way. Understand that in order for you to garner time, whether it's from a small business specialist, whether it's from the actual program office head, to garner that time, you need to be prepared. Okay. It's important that you understand that preparation before you have these calls, these meetings, even if it's informal, is key. You don't want to go to an agency and say, hey, you know what? I just want to know, what contracts do you have for me? They're going to be like, did you do any research? So guess what? Go to FPDS.gov. I've talked about it a lot in this episode, not in this episode, in prior episodes. And I want you to just be resourceful. Use your resources. If you need help, just leave me a comment below, DM me something. I'm here. It is imperative that you come prepared, because when you don't, you're not only wasting your time, you're wasting their time for stuff that you could have looked up ahead of time and been prepared. And if you need a jump start to do that, look at whatever the most recent contract is that they awarded and say, hey, that's awarded to a small business. Let me preface that and say, hey, I noticed that you awarded this to whatever business. We also are in this line of work and would like to be, put into consideration. Are there any other additional requirements that you foresee coming down the pipe for Q3, Q4, or, whatever the quarter is? Like, it's showing that you do your research and you're proactive instead of sitting there with your hand out is much more, garners much more of a positive response from the agency, from the program office, right? The small business office is there to advocate for you. Yes, the small business office is there to help liaison, but they're not there to do the work for you. Like, it's your contract you're trying to get. Like, you're trying to get on the radar. You just come prepared. It's not a good look when you don't come prepared. So back to systems. So that CRM helps us track the relationship and types of interaction and the frequency of interaction. Because if something's not moving forward, then that's like, we have to go look at it and say, hey, what's happening here? Why are we just kind of in circles? Why haven't we met our capability brief mark? So we have metrics that we follow as a team. And some of them are, how many capability briefs have we done this month? And are we above? Are we below? Are we tracking the target? And what does that look like? How do we need to change something in the way we're doing things that allow us to have more capability briefs? Has things changed or shifted within various agencies that we need to now respond to? So it's being able to stay on top of those things. And the CRM allows us to log that information and then be able to respond accordingly. That being stated, our CRM also has a tab where we are able to track articles and posts. So let's say, let's think of an agency. Let's say NASA has, is talking about, now this is me totally making this up, so take it with a grain of salt. But let's say NASA is talking about launching a new satellite, right? And that we're not in satellite, but they're launching a new satellite, and they need assistance with something in the rocket science space that has to do with the satellite, right? If I found that article on a news source, I'm going to pull it and I'm going to see, is there somebody in my CRM that is at NASA that I may be able to start having this conversation with while it is news, but a little bit earlier than that solicitation actually going out to say, hey, we're looking for this, that, and the third. Can you somehow get yourself in a position or in a light to be able to talk about that? Well, we have a articles tab that we are able to associate and link to different agencies. And if we don't know like a particular person at that agency, we have a hierarchy. So we link it to the highest of it, which in this case, it would be NASA. So it's really, what are the systems that you have in place to set you up for success as a small business, to set you up for success in doing business with the government, and to set you up for success for the long term, not the short. While I keep saying Airtable is my jam and pick your tool of choice, you do have to pick a tool. You do have to have at least a process and a means. And if you're a person of one, do not feel overwhelmed. Don't pick 3 agencies. Just pick one and go deep. Understand all the program offices in that agency. And when I say understand, I don't mean know all the nuances of it, but know if they are buying what you are selling. Use FPDS as a resource. Use LinkedIn as a resource. Oh my God, do you know how many conversations I have on LinkedIn with folks across the government workforce? And Some of them are informal, others are more formal, but it's really just showing up and being present, because otherwise they're not going to know you're there. They're not going to know about your services, or they're not going to know about your products, and you're not going to be able to get those contracts that you're looking for. And that's not, we are here to get contracts, right? Thumbs up. Yes. So I encourage you to look at your systems. I talked about our pipeline tracker and some of the pieces and components of it. I talked about our CRM and how we're tracking conversations with the government workforce, and how we're tracking conversations with potential other vendors. Actually, I didn't talk that much on vendors. Let me say this part. So on vendors, the way we track vendors is if there's opportunities that either we know we want to go after, we may want to actually partner with them in the future, or we may have some type of synergy together where it may, we could supplement each other's skill set, then those are different conversations that we also have in track. And it's, hey, this is where we are. This is, it's not, telling your whole life story. It really is just trying to understand, is there some synergy there? Or are they even inviting? Because not everybody that's a small business vendor is willing to share parts of the pie. And, it's unfortunate because there's enough pie for everybody, trust me. But that is the realities of it. And sometimes you just, have to understand that developing even those relationships in the vendor community, while sometimes it could be off-putting, there are a lot of organizations out there that allow you to build that relationship. Like Women Impacting Policy, WIP, is a really good one. I'm a member of their organization, and it's invaluable with the different events that you get to go meet different people in the space of not only government contracting. I mean, it primarily is government contracting, but just understanding, their business and how they're approaching contracts, and, what the complexion of the landscape looks like for them, and all of that is elements or pieces that go, for us, goes into our CRM when it comes to vendors and partnerships. I'm trying to think. WeBank is another one. They provide certifications for WBEs and WOSBs, women-owned small businesses. I'm not in 8A, so I can't. I mean, I know believe it's 8A, National 8A Association, I think, is another group, and that is a special set aside special set aside certification. It does have a time limit, but it is a program that, again, you can meet other vendors like yourself or complementary and have those conversations. Just log them. Like when you're going to these networking events, oh my gosh, go prepared. I'm not saying you need to research everybody, because these things can get kind of big, but at least know why you're going. Don't just go to go. Don't just go to pass out your business card like Pokemon cards. Because I've said that before. It doesn't really yield any real fruit. If you want to go there intentionally. A lot of times you're like, let me see your capability statement. It's like, no, I'm not going to say that joke. That's not appropriate. But it's like, let me see your capability statement. It's just like, I mean, you're not going to have time to sit there and have a meaningful conversation with me over my capability statement in like 2 seconds that you say hi to me. Like, instead, think about how you can approach these networking events as opportunities or doors to grow relationships, to build connections, or maybe introduce someone to someone else. It's not always about your business. Sometimes you may hear what somebody else does and think of a friend who's in that particular space, and you can introduce each other. Like, I've done that before, and there's nothing wrong with that. So yeah, just be proactive with how you're managing your relationships, both from a vendor partner lens as well as from a government workforce lens. So I said CRM. Now I said the vendor side or partnership side of other small businesses, the government workforce, and then I talked about the pipeline tracker. I think for now I got enough to hopefully get you thinking about what may work for you. This is what works for us, and it's proven fruitful. We've developed a number of relationships with various agencies over the years that help us to not only stay on top of what's happening, but also potentially position ourselves for opportunities that make sense for us to continue to grow and go after. So, BOMU Besties, your homework is to think about the systems that are in your business now, or maybe not in your business, that you need to be developing so that you can be set up for government contracting success. So, until next time, I'll catch you on the next episode of She Built Success. Bye.